Coast FM 963, the home of the classic hits. It's 24 minutes past 11. I have the wonderful Carlos Camacho, our psychologist and philosopher, here for a chat.
Hello, Deb.
Once again, good on you, Carlos, for coming in all these weeks.
Oh, this is a dream come true for me.
Oh, good on you. We've been talking over the past few weeks about Plato, Socrates, Aristotle, Epicurus, and last week Marcus Aurelius.
Wow.
And
big names there.
Yeah, aren't they? It's a wonder I didn't bumble that one up.
Yeah, you did well.
Thank you. Because we're talking about how philosophy integrates with psychology in the modern world.
That's right. And it's so important because what happens, as we know, philosophy is one of the first disciplines, and mathematics, and most of all the other disciplines we know today come out of these two big subject matters, if you like. And psychology is definitely a branch of philosophy. Mm-hmm. In modern psychology, unfortunately, we have left philosophy aside, but I'm a true believer that it's very important to have a philosophical foundation in anything one does.
That's right, because we challenge our thoughts and not just accept our negative ones if we're thinking philosophically and chatting to people for different opinions, maybe, and ways of being.
That's exactly right. And psychology is based on the individual and how we see the world, and philosophy is really questioning these belief systems, and not only as an individual but as human beings, yes, and as generations.
Culture, yes,
that's right. So I think it's almost like a prerequisite to study psychology. We have to have philosophy, I think.
That's right. And Stoicism, we were chatting about that last week, weren't we? A great topic. I love it.
It's a very easy subject to relate to today because it's so practical, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
It's and we were talking about Marcus Aurelius, who was the Roman emperor at the time, around 100 to 200 AD, and he took up Stoicism in order to better himself and to be a good leader. He wrote that wonderful book, Meditations, in order to remind himself on how to act and not to allow external things to affect him.
Yes, very wise.
Yeah.
And what are the characteristics, really, in a wrap-up of a Stoic person?
Someone that there's a lot, like we said last week, there has been a rise in that Stoic approach because, as we know, with cognitive behavioral therapy, we look at how thinking colours the way we see reality and how it can affect us. So and Stoicism is exactly that. It's trying to limit ourselves to concentrate only on the things we have control over, and that is, according to the Stoics, is only our mind and our thoughts.
That's right. And also, it's really important to live in agreement with nature, isn't it? To really admire it and be part of it.
Yes, and appreciate it, isn't it?
Yeah, that's another word.
And I think all this Hellenistic philosophy, so much as the Stoics and like Epicurus that we talked about, and a few others, is based on being integrated with nature. Yes, and that they felt that the human being will reach a certain level of happiness and maintain that happiness, and even Aristotle thought so too, if we don't try to fight nature but be part of it.
And appreciate everything that we have.
That's very Stoic, isn't it?
It is.
It's not so much what you don't have, but what you do have that's extremely important. And there was a philosopher called Epictetus, not to be confused with Epicurus.
And he's after Epicurus.
That's right. And he was a Stoic philosopher. The big three were Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca. But the wonderful thing about these three men is that they were from three very different backgrounds. Marcus, of course, was an emperor.
Yes.
Epictetus was a slave with a physical disability. And Seneca was involved in a bit of the high class with politicians. He was actually the tutor of Nero, the very bad.
The one who destroyed everything.
That's right. Obviously, he didn't do a very good job with teaching him.
What was he teaching him?
The Stoic approach. And
he didn't think.
That's right. And actually, Nero sentenced Seneca to death. In the end, because Seneca didn't agree, of course, on a lot of things he was doing, and he stood up to his own Stoic approach, which is wonderful in a way. But it cost him his life. But unfortunately, when you have people that take power and use it for bad. There's not enough stoicism to save them, and unfortunately they are, and we see it today as well,
yes,
don't we?
Do. Some people just can't change their mind and change the world.
That's exactly right. And the wonderful thing about these three men was that they used stoicism to better themselves despite their backgrounds. And Seneca has a wonderful book called On the Shortness of Life.
Oh, okay.
And his main philosophy is that life is not short. It's just that we waste too much time.
We do, don't we? And
That's
waste
right.
time, as we spoke about before, being scared of things and being scared of death.
That's exactly right. Epictetus actually says that our imagination is pretty much our downfall, because we're scared of a lot of these things that can't harm us. So what we put into these things is more powerful, because we believe that they're going to harm us, but they don't. And if you start thinking about our own thoughts, if you start thinking about the things we're scared of,
they're very fearful.
They are, but most of them never actually arrive. Like, for example, what if this plane crashes what if I get hit by a car? What if this person doesn't like me? What if? And so a lot of our thoughts, a lot of our energy goes into things that aren't real. Yeah.
So we need to bring ourselves back then to be mindful of the moment and try to let these thoughts come through the brain and let them go.
That's right, because that's not a reality. It's not a pure reality. It's a reality we're creating through our fears, which hurts us as much as if it were a reality.
That's true, doesn't it? It's very, very true.
Exactly. So it's very important to maintain that clear, positive thought, because that is the reality we're creating.
That's right. So you sound like you've already become a sage.
No, I'm very, very far from it.
We'll keep practicing, won't we?
I love reading on these wonderful people that wrote all these things. But even if you look at these people's lives as well, they themselves say that they haven't really conquered it, because they do react to things, because we are emotional beings. Yes. You can't be a robot. Yeah. And therefore, I don't think you can ever get to the stage where you have...
perfect.
That's right. I don't think so, because there's too many factors. But I think what is important is to really try, because a lot of these philosophies are an ideal. None of us can get to that ideal, but if we come close, we're going to have a very fulfilling lifestyle.
Fantastic, Carlos. Beautiful. Do you have books to give away today? Goodbye, Charlie.
There are a couple. Yeah, it's been very popular, so I'm very happy with
You're
that.
running out of books, aren't you?
I'm running out of books.
So you got 2 lots, have you?
We've got a couple to give out for those that are interested, and I think it's important to maintain a good approach with reading and try to get into things that can help us.
Yes, and even just to let the mind go somewhere in a fantasy world. It's good too sometimes, isn't it?
And into a good fantasy world, not to those that fear that stops us from doing things, because that is not real. We've got to talk to ourselves out loud and make sure we overcome these things, because 2,500 years ago, when these wonderful books were written, nothing much has changed.
That's right. So first 2 callers on 4322 0072, we'll have a copy of Carlos Camacho's Goodbye, Charlie. Thanks, Carlos, for coming in.
Oh, thank you, Deb.
See you next week.
For sure.
And our song today?
I thought something very stoic is when you have a problem, just walk on by.
Dion Warwick on Coast FM, Classic Hits, 27 to 12.
If you see me walking down the street and I start to cry each time we meet, walk on by, walk on by. Make believe that you don't see the tears, just let